The reimagining of thousands of Australia's restaurants and bars as takeaway food outlets is one of the most visible signs of how the coronavirus has changed not just our lives, but our economy.
Our companies are probably trading at about 5 to 10%. We did close, so it's like we closed and then started again. It made it incredibly difficult, and there's nobody walking around.
The Carringbush Hotel is the only one of Liam Matthews' 3 venues that is still operating.
It's really difficult some days to come here and sort of sit around for 12 hours and put $500 through the till.
Hospitality and the arts were hit by the first waves of social distancing restrictions, and they're the 2 sectors that have suffered the biggest hits, both to workers and the businesses that employ them.
This holds 896 people, and it's usually full to capacity. It's very strange to see it dark.
Heather Mitchell is a member of the Sydney Theatre Company board, as well as one of Australia's leading actors.
It was literally overnight. The damage is phenomenal. I think it's 7 seasons just at the Sydney Theatre Company have been cancelled, which alone is $9 million in revenue, which is lost. Something like 68% of the annual revenue is gone.
So by late February it was clear, not particularly from things happening in Australia, but from what was going on overseas, that there was a gathering storm, and we thought that there was every chance that this was coming and that we should be thinking as creatively as we could about what information we could provide.
David Gruen is the Australian statistician. He has mobilised the Bureau of Statistics to start collecting data in a whole new way so that we can get a much faster and clearer picture of what is happening in the economy. The new figures released show how many businesses had turned off the lights by the end of March. Less than 70% of businesses in the food and accommodation sector that had been operating just 2 weeks earlier were open for business. The fallout in the arts and recreation services sector was even more savage. Less than half were operating. The impact on jobs was equally dramatic. Roughly 1 in 4 workers in hospitality have lost their jobs, and 1 in 5 in the arts. It's one of the bitter ironies of this economic slump that 2 of the sectors that are hardest hit have workforces that can't necessarily access the assistance the government has announced. It's not just that arts and hospitality have a lot of short-term casual workers. There are a lot of people on temporary visas. And what's more, for both sectors, there's more uncertainty about when they can actually get back to work. Liam Matthews slimmed down to a skeleton crew of less than 10 carefully chosen workers to run the takeaway.
It really came down to how many people we could afford to keep and what their skill set was.
How are you?
Vince Chalmers was going to be one of them. He's been with Liam 4 years and knows the business inside out.
Been here from the beginning. I put in a lot of blood, sweat and tears, doing all the renovations and kind of seeing the business grow.
That's what's left. He was a great person to keep as part of the skeleton staff because we could move him back and forth between the bar and the kitchen. So we made that decision.
But the rules of the government's wage subsidy intervened. Vince is a migrant from the UK, and while his partner is a citizen, he's not yet a permanent resident. So the government won't subsidise his paycheck.
That was a really difficult conversation. He was devastated. He was absolutely devastated.
A good chunk of Liam's workers are ineligible for the JobKeeper allowance as either short-term casuals or migrants. But even for those that might be eligible, there is the cash problem.
Probably about 2/3 were eligible, but that doesn't mean that we can afford to pay them.
Businesses don't get their subsidy back from the government until next month and are paying wages from their savings in the meantime.
If we had have nominated all our staff like we wish that we could have, we would have needed a cash flow of around $100,000. We simply don't have that. It's cash in, cash out.
In 2019, STC employed 586 people, and 78% of those people were casual, freelance and contract workers.
The ripples spread out to smaller theatres and into the regions.
We share audiences, we share ideas, but we also share our staff, we share our actors.
Labor says the government should consider a specific industry rescue package for the arts. The government says it's reached the outer limits of the assistance it can provide to individuals and to the economy generally. But it also says it remains open to new ideas as new information becomes available.
Across Job Seeker and Job Keeper, the amount going into the cultural and creative sector will be at least $4 billion.
People who were effectively working full-time, but the way you do in this industry, going from one workplace to the next, have been left with nothing.
You don't just turn the lights back on in a theatre. It takes months and months and months and years of programming and development to get any show on. New scripts, new works can take years.
For sectors like hospitality and the arts, the future rests heavily on how social distancing policies evolve. But they may also require some innovative policy thinking about supporting industries where social distancing may not be a viable economic option anytime soon.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.